Hey, welcome to lecture 2 in this. I don't know how many lectures there's going to be, but essentially I'm going to just give you all the information that you need to break into the world of finance and banking. So continuing from lecture 1, we were talking about the world of banking and finance, and I was giving you an industry overview. So today we're going to continue from where we left off, because there's lots to cover. And for those of you that don't know who I am, my name's Afzal Hussain. I started my career at Goldman Sachs. Since leaving, I've helped thousands of people break into the industry. I've recently published a book called Breaking into Banking, the Essential Guide to a Career in Finance. If you want a book that will teach you everything you need to know about the industry and the different divisions, break it all down for you, and then teach you how to actually break into the industry, this is that book. I will link it for you in the video description below. Now, without any further ado, let's get into today's slides. So if I minimize my face, we are going into the career paths in investment banking. So previously, I think we left off, where did we leave off? We left off here, private wealth management. We touched on that. All right, research and analysis. So typically in investment banks, whichever division you're in, especially in the front office, you're going to have to carry out some market research, right? If you're in the investment banking division, you need to do market research to figure out, if you're looking to help a company acquire another company or help a company raise capital, you need to do market research. What's available out there? Does it make sense for this company to do this? Is there a favorable growth trend in the industry to do this? So on and so forth. If you're a trader or if you're in asset management, you need to do your market research across the asset classes that you're interested in, so on and so forth. Financial modeling, this is more specific to the investment banking division. So we're going to go into financial modeling in a few slides, so I'll cover that in detail there. And then data-driven insights. You don't want to make decisions with other people's money without having meaningful conviction, i.e. you don't want to just say, I think this is going to happen, so I'm going to make this decision. You want to have data-driven insights. You want to make decisions based on data. So the more data you have, and the better that your firm or your company can use that data to make meaningful decisions, the more likely you are to succeed and make better investment decisions. And so across the world of finance and banking, there's lots of different teams that cover research and analysis, and use all of this type of market research to create reports, to make decisions, and to help essentially the firm generate more revenue. All right, next slide. Quick thing on back office divisions. If you're, move my face here. If you're new to this world, there's typically the front office, which are the more competitive roles. They pay the higher salaries. They tend to be more time consuming. The hours are longer if you work there. The bonuses are bigger. The work is more demanding. You're more client facing. And then you've got back office roles. So operations, back/middle office roles. Operations, this is kind of like the engine room of the investment bank. Without operations, the traders, the front office, they can't do their job. So let's say a trade gets executed in the front office. It's the operations division's role to make sure everything after that trade gets executed is flawless, making sure client money or client funds come through effectively, making sure there's no mishaps or mistakes in the systems, in the reporting, making sure everything works out, and the back end fine. You've got risk management. This is very important, especially in asset management. You've got portfolio managers, or in asset management you've got lots of pools of money being managed and invested throughout the capital markets. And risk management is extremely important. You might have a portfolio that's got 500 million pounds in it of capital, and it's being invested in the debt markets, right? And so making sure that there's risk measures or different checks in place to make sure that 500 million pounds doesn't suddenly go to 250 million pounds. Making sure those risk measures are in place to make sure that money is being managed properly. So different portfolios are going to have different risk profiles. Some are going to be more risky, so they take on a lot more risk in order to get a higher return, but the potential downside is going to be a lot riskier, so you can lose a lot more money. Some portfolios or some products are going to be safer. You're not going to get huge returns, but as a result, it's a safer investment. You're not going to take huge risk. Risk management teams are there to make sure the portfolios are doing what they say on the tin, and they're managing risk. Especially in asset management, a lot of portfolio management, the investing, the role is actually considered risk management. You're mitigating or you're managing risk of the portfolios consistently. Then you've got technology. The technology division, it's a back office division, but it's gained in popularity since software engineering became more of a favored career, especially when big tech companies like Google, tech startups, etc., started hiring and paying more for talent. And so investment banks started paying more attention to technology division analysts and employees. In investment banks, typically what you're going to be doing in the technology division is there's a lot of old software that investment banks use. And the world of financial services, they're not fast to move with the most latest trends or embrace AI or, move with the times. They're very slow sometimes because they're big organizations, right? And so oftentimes in a technology role, you're updating or improving legacy software. You're creating software and programs for the investment banking staff, like the traders, salespeople, etc., to use. And so that's the type of technology or software engineering roles you're going to be pursuing or doing in technology. As opposed to working for a big tech company, it might be slightly different. All right, career paths in investment banking. So typically, when you're in undergrad or university, you'll do a spring week or an internship, and you will, after you graduate, you'll join as an analyst. This is the entry-level position, and here you're kind of doing a lot of the grunt work. You're the lowest position in the hierarchy, and so the key thing here as an analyst is you want to consume as much information as you can, learn as much as you can, and just put in the hours. These hours are going to be some of the longest you do in your career. You're going to work the hardest. A lot of people go into the investment banking division specifically. They do 18, 19 hours a day for 2 years straight, 5-6 days a week. It can burn them out. However, when you're doing these long hours compared to doing a 9 to 5, you're just going to learn a lot more. You're going to become more technical. You're going to be a better, you're going to be more efficient. You're going to be a better or more attractive higher when it comes to working in other industries or moving to different positions. So the analyst position is like a training ground when you come out of uni, and it's very attractive for people because when you break into the world of banking and finance, the salaries are better than the average salaries elsewhere. You learn a lot. You never find yourself sitting at the desk and wondering, what time is it? I want to go home, because you're constantly working. There's lots of stuff to do, so you're on the go. So it keeps you mentally engaged until you get bored of it or until you master it, right? After a few years, this varies from firm to firm. After a few years, you become an associate. And this is where you start managing analysts, but also you're managing up because there's people above you, the vice presidents and directors, who are managing you and giving you more work. But essentially, at each rung of the ladder, you're getting more and more responsibility. Here, the decisions you make hold a lot more weight. So you're doing less grunt work like the analysts and associates, but you're making fewer decisions, but the decisions you do make have a huge or larger impact on the business. At the VP level, VP/director, executive director, etc., you're managing associates and analysts. You're responsible for more of the business. You're responsible for bringing in business, and a larger part of your salary is tied up in your performance and stocks and equity in the company, basically. And then when you get to managing director, you're responsible for a whole business unit or a whole team. There's a lot of pressure on you. You're not, working extremely long hours like these guys, but the decisions you make, they are going to be important business decisions that affect the performance of the team and the division and all these individuals here. So that's an overview of the typical career path. Some firms like Goldman Sachs has a partner level, so after managing director you become a partner. But yeah, these are standard across the industry. All right, from analyst to managing director, we've kind of covered that. It varies from firm to firm. At smaller firms, this is important to note. At smaller firms, it's less defined compared to the big bulge brackets. So at a Goldman's or a JP, you'd have 2 to 3 years, and then 3 to 4 years or 2 to 3 years, set time periods. Whereas unless you're extremely good and they don't want to lose you, they'll promote you sooner. But at smaller firms, if you're extremely good, you can climb. There's less of a hierarchy or a structure, so you can climb and get promoted faster, purely based on how good you are. So that's why it's a performance-driven industry, and if you outperform, you'll get rewarded. All right, leveraging your background, your educational background. Undergraduate degrees undergraduate degree matters. You know, the truth is, if you go to a top tier university, LSE, Oxford, Cambridge, etc., it does help. It gets your CV noticed. But the main thing that you want to learn, and I tell this to everyone in the community, Finance Fast Track, that I run, it will be linked below. Essentially, you know, the job of your CV, especially now in application season, you just need to get the person. They give you 6 seconds. Everyone reads a CV 6 seconds. You need to get them reading more, or reading beyond that 6 seconds. You've got 6 seconds to capture their attention. So if you go to a top uni, great. If you don't go to a top uni, you need to make that top education section interesting. Whether you're going to do CFA or you've got some interesting scholarship or achievement, you need to grab their attention immediately. Because if you don't, within 6 seconds, they're going to throw your CV in the bin and go to the next candidate. Hundreds of thousands of candidates are applying this application season. So you got to do that. I'll link a CV template for you to use in the video description below as well. So investment banks value candidates with strong academic backgrounds. Look, if you've got good grades and good academic background, it just tells them this candidate, this individual can learn and apply themselves. If you can't prove that, then they're going to think this job is not suitable for you. Highlighting relevant coursework. So what I do actually, let me show you. This is Finance Fast Track Community. By the way, we're on this slide right here, Finance Industry Overview. There's so much, the front office, back office, buy side, sell side, asset management, investment banking, sales and trading. So I want to ideally go through all of these, and there's a ton more as well in due course through this lecture series. Anyway, if I go to the Classroom tab, this is my community. Start here, you do a 4-week accelerator, and it teaches you everything you need to know to break into the industry, to secure, to ace your applications, and to secure interviews and to convert interviews into offers. So everything you need to know is there. Anyway, what I wanted to show you is, going back to this point, highlighting relevant coursework. If you don't have, a lot of you won't have relevant experience or anything to talk about. What people do in the community is they come here and they do a 30-day investment banking challenge, or private banking, sales and trading, asset management, etc. When you do these 30-day challenges, after you do them, you can, like if I click into it, at the bottom here, I've got all these bullet points, 50 example bullet points that you can tweak and improve, and then put into your CV. And you learn all of these things in 4 weeks. Technical knowledge, investment strategy, sales and district, everything you need to know about asset management. The goal with these 30-day challenges is to teach you so much about the division that you're an expert, and you will know more than any other candidate. So that's just one example. Other people, what else? What was I going to show you? Other people, they do this by doing Forage, online virtual experiences. There's a company called Forage. They do virtual work experiences that take you a few hours to complete. You want to do things that show you're interested in the industry. So highlighting relevant stuff related to finance, add that to your CV. Extracurricular activities, you know, ideally if you're in uni, you want to be part of societies, finance societies, but as I say, don't just be a member. That doesn't give you much to talk about. What you want to do is play or take an active leadership position in these societies. Become the president, or become the head of marketing, or become the events organizer, or head of growth, whatever it is. If you take on a position, it gives you more to talk about in your CV. Last but not least, if you've graduated and you're struggling to break in, and then one thing you can do is consider doing a master's degree. It buys you extra time, and it allows you to apply to internships and grad schemes again. Alternatively, you can do CFA or finance qualifications. That will boost your CV as well. All right, technical skills for investment banking. So earlier I said we're going to touch on financial modeling and all of that. So let's do that right now. What is financial modeling? So this is more specific to the investment banking division, and also some like equity research roles where you're trying to identify the value of a company, the future value of a company, right? So financial modeling, why is it important? Let's say I want to acquire a company, or I want to merge with a company. I need to understand how much should I pay for that company, right? So what financial modeling does is you're basically creating a model in Excel, or you're creating what's another way to say it? Let's say you're creating a machine that you input details about this company, previous or historical data about a company into this machine, and that machine is going to predict the future value of this company, and then that gives you a bit of an idea of whether you should go ahead with the deal or not. right? And it allows you to, you're the expert, you build this machine, you get the data, and you present it to clients. So that's what financial modeling essentially is. Analysts must be able to build complex models. You can take lots of courses, there's tons of free stuff online to learn financial modeling, but it's not like rocket science. It just takes a lot of time and effort. Valuation techniques. So when it comes to the investment banking division specifically, there's lots of different ways to do these, to value companies. So when we talk about discounted cash flow, this is basically a technique used to value a company based on its future cash flows. So what is this company worth today based on its predicted or projected future cash flows? Based on the amount of money it's going to make in the future, having looked at its historical performance, how much is it worth today? That's discounted cash flow analysis. Comparable company analysis. Oftentimes these jargon words can confuse you, but you just have to break it down. Comparable company analysis is analyzing companies that are comparable to each other. That's it. So comparable company analysis is, let's say I want to invest in a healthcare company, and it's a mid-sized healthcare company, and I'm not sure how to value it. What I would do is look at similar companies that compare similar companies compared to it. So I would look at other mid-sized healthcare companies, a range of them, and see how much they got bought or sold for. Then I would use that to identify, all right, given this, this, and this, it means this company, given it's similar, it might be valued at this price, right? That's comparable company analysis. You can dig deeper into all of these, so you can do that in your own time. Use ChatGPT, but this is the high-level overview of what this all means. Precedent transactions. So precedent means something that's already happened. So an earlier action or something that's already happened. Transactions. So similarly, precedent transactions analysis is when you identify or value something based on previous deals that have happened, right? Simple. So those are valuation techniques. Excel mastery. If you want to make your life easier and stand out in interviews and internships especially, then irrespective of which division you go for, sales and trading, investment banking, asset management, operations, etc., master Excel. How to use Excel. If you can basically be at an advanced level, you can easily do that. You can get to an advanced level of Excel with 20 hours of work over the weekend, learning Excel. If you can do that, you will impress people. You'll be more efficient. Think of it like this. When you join the investment banking division or trading floor, whatever, a lot of your time, most of your time is going to be on Microsoft Excel if you're in a technical role. And so if you're already an expert in Excel, you're just going to stand out compared to the competition, and you're going to be extremely useful to the associates, the directors, VPs, etc. So it's an easy win. Become an Excel expert. Programming skills, not necessarily needed, but it does help. In Excel, if you can build like macros and you can learn all this stuff, especially on the trading floor, it will help you, but it's a nice to have, not a need to have. All right, next slide. You know, these slides, yeah, I look at them and I'm like, okay, I'll do it in 10-15 minutes, but I realize it's already been 18 minutes and there is a lot more to cover. Financial modeling and valuation. Building financial models, we've touched on that. You know, you are going to build financial models to predict or project whether it makes sense for transactions or deals to happen. Valuation methodologies, we've covered that. Financial modeling skills, you can learn that online. There's tons of course providers. So yeah, we've covered all of that. Next slide. Excel, PowerPoint, and programming. As I've mentioned, Excel is very important. If you can be an expert on that, great. Second most important or common tool you're going to be using is PowerPoint. Every time the bank or your team or the division is going to go and present to a client, they're going to have to take a presentation. That presentation is going to be made on PowerPoint. Chances are you are going to work on that presentation. So you're going to take the data and information and graphs and all of that and make it look nice, put it onto PowerPoint. And you're going to be up late at night, middle of the night, depending on when your managing director gives you the request, fixing basic numbers, alignments, tidying things up, changing slides around, and doing all of that. And so it helps to be an expert in PowerPoint as well. Programming, as it says here, while not a prerequisite, having good skills in programming can be an asset. But I would prioritize it like this. Prioritize Excel, mastery, and then PowerPoint, and then worry about programming, only if you have the scope and time. All right, next slide. Soft skills for success. So, no. These are some of the skills that people don't often talk about, but if you have them, they shine through and they just make you more attractive as a candidate. They make you more likable and they make you more of a natural fit for the team. A lot of getting an offer, it doesn't matter if you're the best financial modeler, best at Excel, best at PowerPoint and all the technical stuff, if you don't have these basic things. And I say basic things, but they're often very hard to come by because, you know, a lot of students and candidates, they're bright, but they just don't have the social skills. They don't know how to hold a conversation. They don't know how to talk to people, how to carry themselves, present themselves in meetings, so on and so forth. Communication and presentation, very important, especially if you're in a sales role, going to client meetings or a investor relations role. You need to be presentable. You're representing the firm, right? You can't be messy. Communication, can you get your ideas across effectively? Are you able to talk to people, keep them posted, keep them updated? Are you a good communicator? Very important. Teamwork and collaboration goes without saying. In any division, you're going to not just work with your team, you're going to work with teams across the division. You might even work with teams from different divisions. Also, you're going to collaborate with clients. You know, it's not just you and the client and your two separate entities. Your role in the world of banking and finance and in any business is to hold the client's hand and make sure they get the service and the result that they're, you know, paying you to help them achieve. So collaborating effectively, that's very important. Think of examples in your previous experiences that you've displayed these skills and then add them to your CV. That's very important because in interviews, they're going to say to you, tell me a time when you displayed teamwork skills or when you collaborated. So if you have these examples already, and we practice this every week, there's 4 calls every week, group calls in the community that I run. People practice their mock interview delivery and then I give them live feedback and then we go back and forth. So if you're interested, you can check that out. Problem solving throughout your career in finance especially, you're constantly going to have to think critically. You're going to be given tons of information and data. You have to identify, what does this mean? Why is it important? How can I use it to most effectively reach the goal of the client or the team or the division that I'm in? And you're going to have to problem solve. There's going to be lots of things that crop up that are going to not go to plan. You're going to have to figure out how to solve problems. Late at night when you're working alone and something's not working, there's no one going to be around to help you. You need to figure out how to solve that. So making sure you have these skills is very, very important. Communication and presentation. When I was in the industry and in general, I noticed public speaking, all the American analysts and graduates, they were a lot better at public speaking than the UK students and graduates. Maybe they learn public speaking in academia in the US faster or sooner than they do in the UK, but public speaking is very important. And the best way to get over it or to be a good public speaker is to identify a topic you're confident or comfortable talking about and then present it in front of a small audience or a small group. The more you do that, the better you get. That's it. Written communication. Nowadays you have ChatGPT to help you refine every email that you send or every text that you write. And so leverage that. But also, you know, this is a muscle. You get better at your writing skills the more you do it. Presentation skills. Similarly, practice makes perfect. If I present, like right now, I'm presenting to you on this slide, or this presentation slide, right? And my key, the way I like to make it seem natural, I'm just presenting it like it's a conversation between me and a friend. I'm talking to you like you're my friend and I'm just explaining stuff. But it does help that I know all of this stuff inside out. And so that gives me confidence. The more knowledgeable you are in a particular topic, the more confidence you're going to get. And so practice plus knowledge and confidence equals A++ public speaking, written, communication and presentation skills. All right, next slide. Teamwork and collaboration, very important. Not much to say here. We've touched on that already. Oh, this just digs deeper into what we've just mentioned. All right, the recruiting process. So if you're new and you don't know much about the recruiting process, what you want to do, network, prepare, apply. All right, so this is basic. What I would encourage you to do, if I switch tabs, this is my framework, case framework. So case essentially is knowledge, application, contingency, execution. You want to know everything you need to know about the division you're interested in. But even better is everything about the world of finance. So if you can build your foundational knowledge of the different divisions, investment banking, sales and trading, asset management, so on and so forth, you will stand out compared to all the other candidates. Because when it comes to interviews, you can say, yeah, I'm really interested in sales and trading because I looked at investment banking and I looked at asset management, but they didn't really align with my interests and my skill sets, blah, 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 blah. So once you have the knowledge, you're good. You can start creating a solid application. You can do application before knowledge, that's fine. Application is all about having a solid CV and a solid cover letter and knowing which division you're most interested in. A lot of people have good applications, but they don't know which division to apply for, and so they don't really progress. But also making sure you practice the online tests, so when you get invites to do the online tests, you can pass the online test and then get to the interview stage. Contingency, this is very important. You need a backup plan. If you're just going for the most competitive roles and you don't get any offers, you're going to graduate without a job. You don't want that to happen. You need a backup option. The back office roles, the alternative industries, these are easier to break into than front office roles at investment banks. So you need to think, what's a good backup option? When I was in uni, my priority first was to just get an offer anywhere. Back office, different industry, etc. When I got those, then I was more risk on, more ambitious with my applications, and then I got Goldman Sachs Asset Management, Barclays Private Banking, so on and so forth. And so you need a contingency, a backup plan. And last but not least, execution is everything you need to know to prepare and smash your interviews. There's no point having a good application if you get interviews and you don't know how to perform in an interview. So that's why interviews, execution section. So we've got knowledge, application, contingency, execution. Execution is all about acing interviews. There's tons of different interviews, higher view interviews, interview preparation, motivational questions, competency, brain teasers, situational judgment, technical questions, so on and so forth. You need to prepare for all of these. There's worksheets that you could do and prepare STAR technique answers: situation, task, action, result. The more you know about the division, the easier the technical stuff becomes. Yeah. Okay, so if we go back to the slides, and that's how essentially you master the recruiting process. A lot of people don't do this, but you should reach out to people on LinkedIn so that you can build a connection and learn about the industry. But also when it comes to applying to companies, you can mention the names of the people that you met who are employees at the companies you are applying to. Having spoken to so-and-so who's a director in this team, I learned that your company, blah, blah, blah. Put that on your cover letter, talk about it in the interview. It just makes you a stronger candidate. The more touch points you have between you and the firm that you're applying to, the more closer of a connection you build, the more likely you are to get an offer and outperform. So that's very important. Attend industry events. Make sure when you go to these, you take down the names and roles of everyone you meet or don't meet, the people that speak. And then when you get home, send them a thank you message that evening or the next day. So you build that touch point, build that connection. And then in the future, you can reach out to them for a coffee or a video call. So you have to plant these seeds early on, and they will help you over time. How many slides are left? 1, 2, 3, all right. Internships and analyst programs. These are good because, look, essentially, if you secure an internship while you're at university, you are highly likely to convert it into a full-time role. Most full-time roles are given to interns. That's why it's extremely important to secure an internship if you can. That's very important. And what happens in these? You basically get real-life experience in the team or the division that you're interested in for 6 to 10 weeks. That's what an internship is. Analyst programs are after you graduate, and they could be 2 years, they could be 1 year, they could be no analyst program. You just join full-time as an employee, you go from there. It varies from firm to firm. All right. Navigating the investment banking interview. Most essential thing is you need to know as much as you can about the company and the division you're interested in. The more you know about the division you're interested in, that will allow you to master the technical questions. And there's tons of resources online in the community, etc., to prepare you for this. Good thing is, it's all learnable. It just requires time and effort to learn it. Also, most of your interviews are going to be competency-based questions. Tell me a time when you led a team. Tell me a time when you displayed teamwork skills. Tell me a time when you worked under pressure. Tell me what your most common weaknesses are. These types of questions. Using previous exam experiences to answer skills that you've developed that are relevant for the role. You use the STAR technique: situation, task, action, result. I've covered on the YouTube channel. I've got videos on all of this stuff. You could just search it on the channel and watch it and find it. The key thing to securing offers is volume. You need to just submit so many applications with a high quality application pack, strong CV, cover letter, etc., and then get as many interviews as you can. And then from those interviews, you're not going to get accepted to all of them. You're going to get more rejections than you do get offers. But the key thing is, the more you do, the more you will get success in. So it's a numbers game. Behavioral and technical questions, we've covered that. Investment banking lifestyle. Yeah, look, by the way, investment banking can refer to the division, the investment banking division, but also, you know, it's not correct, but most people refer to it as the industry, investment banks, investment banking, so sales and trading. Oftentimes people say banker and they're referring to traders or asset management portfolio managers, etc. Really and truly, banker is just the investment banking division. But yeah, when we say the investment banking lifestyle, we're talking about high finance careers or front office or investment bank careers. So typically you're going to work long hours. We all know that. That's why they pay you lots of money and it's part of the culture. That might change, or your hours might be affected because of AI. Might start to do a lot of the basic tasks. High stress environment. You know, if you're a trader on the trading floor or an investment banker working 20 hours a day, not getting enough sleep, you are going to be stressed. That's why it's very common. I'm going to be real with you. People join these industries. After 5 years, they got grey hair. They age. It looks like they age 10, 15 years when they've only been there for 5 years. Has a huge toll on your life. So it's very important to consider if you want to do this long term. Most of the people that climb and make it to the top in these industries, they really enjoy it. They love it. It's their life's mission. It's their passion. If that isn't for you, then maybe it's not the right industry for you. It wasn't for me. I like teaching. I like entrepreneurship. I like, you know, internet businesses, this kind of stuff. I like, you know, where the world is. I don't know what is going on behind me right now. Don't know what just happened. Where was I? So you got to find what you're interested in. But for the people that are passionate about finance, and you know, they are the people that last. For the people that just don't join the industry to make money, and they don't really enjoy it, they don't last. Everyone's different, but you have to understand it's high stress, demanding working hours. But if you're good at what you do, there is no doubt you can climb quick and you can make it to the top and make a lot of money. Okay, long hours and high stress. Yes. There's going to be constant pressure to perform, yeah, because the deals you're working on, the nature of the work, there's a lot of money involved. When there's a lot of money involved, a lot of people get very anxious or very, you know, if the way you work impacts people's potential earnings, people are going to be seriously on your case when you're not working well. So it's very demanding, and even the clients have huge, high expectations. Clients expect investment bankers, or you know, the people serving them, to be available around the clock, and so that's going to come into your career. Compensation and benefits. Yeah, base salary is above average. You know, and nowadays in the UK, if you start as an analyst, base salaries can be £60,000-70,000. In the US, it's even more. Compensation, total comp includes bonuses as well, and then benefits like healthcare, so on and so forth. Bonuses can easily be 10, 20, 30, 40, 50% of your salary based on the division's performance, the market you're in, the team's performance, deal flow, how many transactions you've worked on, so on and so forth. But it works both ways. It can be great and it can be extremely poor. In very difficult years, a lot of people get fired, so that's important to consider. In very good years, hiring goes up, bonuses get bigger. It ebbs and flows, but generally speaking, they're making you work hard. It's a high pressure industry, stressful environment, tough career, so naturally you get compensated accordingly. And then you do get equity incentives. The more you climb in the industry, the more of your pay gets tied up in equity. So the company says, all right, here, there's 50% of your salary and bonus in cash, 50% is tied up in the company stock. You get to unlock that 50% if you stay here over the next 2, 3, 4 years. Each year you stay, the more of it you will unlock. That way the company, the bank, is protecting itself from losing you and just from you running away to a competitor. They lock you in with equity. That's why it's easier to leave earlier on in your career as opposed to getting to managing director, being locked in with a huge equity package that is tied up that you will earn by staying longer. Whereas if you leave sooner, it's easier. Bonuses and equity incentives. We just covered this. Yeah. Oftentimes there's a misconception. People think the big bulge bracket investment banks pay the most. Oftentimes that's not necessarily true. A lot of small niche boutique firms, there's less employees, but they make tons of money. They pay higher bonuses. You can climb quicker. So don't just shut down the option of going for smaller firms. Explore big firms, medium-sized firms, mid-market firms, small firms. And the best way to learn is reach out to people on LinkedIn in these roles, in these companies, in the industry. You will not learn any faster way than talking to people in the actual position that you want to be in. Okay, I think that's it. Oh no. Okay, last slide. So, last but not least, breaking into the world of finance and banking is a solid career, and I help people break in because I believe it gives you solid exit opportunities. When you break into these industries, especially at prestigious companies with big names like Goldman Sachs or JP Morgan, it opens the doors for you later on. So after you graduate, you do a few years there, and then if you want to go to a different career or do something different, you've got that stamp of approval on your CV. People know that you've worked hard, you've done lots of tough stuff, and you've got lots of skills that you've developed. You're highly attractive as an employee. That's why it's important to go, like if you go into these careers, know that, you know, you can transition to other careers a lot easier than if you were to do different careers from the get-go out of university. So that's very important. And that is the last slide for today on this lecture presentation slide. Now, that was lecture 2. Lecture 3 will probably be, if we go into here, I will do maybe front office versus back office in a bit more detail. Let me know in the comments which of these you want me to go through next, in fact. Anyway, oh, this fan's going mad. Oh, if you made it to the end, thank you. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, and make sure you grab your copy of Breaking into Banking. It will be linked in the video description below. And if you buy it, email me the details will be below. If you email info@afzalhussain.com, proof of your purchase, I will send you £180 worth of career guides for free. So there's a little bonus for you, treat, if you made it to the end. Anyway, I'll see you in the next video. It is hot, so I'm going to go and cool down. Peace.